Well, I think the first thing is to look internally and then identify what sort of skills that we're lacking internally. I think for us, we found that one of the key things that's extremely important that you shouldn't do without is an accounting skill. Not that there's a lot to account for in a startup, but once you have a process in place, you have the ability to immediately demonstrate an ability to be disciplined, an ability to report, an ability to manage your own affairs without being given a third party to help you. And then the second thing is then to look outside to find people who are willing to work in a company that doesn't have any money. Now, if you've been around Africa, any company that doesn't have money usually doesn't have employees. And also because it's a relatively new thing. It's so much easier to recruit people once you've got the first $500,000, $1 million. And then you're pretty much batching a lot of really good people. The issue is you need to go out there and find people who can bring those skills, but also bring a certain mindset, because when you work in a startup, you're going to go in the morning from CEO and then cleaner in the afternoon to credit control in the evening. You need to be able to have people who can do a lot of things. Yeah, startup isn't the right place for a one-trick pony. You've got to find people who have a very strong interpersonal skills, because a lot of the times for a startup to survive, there are a lot of people who are cutting you slack. You've got suppliers who will just allow you to pay them after 90 days as opposed to immediately. But for that to happen, you need to have the right people who will build those relationships around the company, allowing it to grow. So you look internally, just to come back to your question, and then when you go out there to look for people, you already know what skills you need. But for it to actually work, then you need the right people. And how you find the right people is you need to find people that want to be entrepreneurs. You need to find people with a very, very high threshold for pay, because a lot of people do want to be entrepreneurs, but at the first sign of dark clouds, you will find that their CVs are out there. So you need to combine that. Well, I think there must be a market for crowdfunding, because frankly speaking, I hear so much about it now that there must be a market for it. The questions that come to my mind is, crowdfunding seems to me in Southern Africa to be a highly unregulated form of financing. At the moment, there hasn't been a track record for crowdfunding in Southern Africa. So a lot of people will look at crowdfunding with skepticism. You'll probably find that the main issues that you will have in Southern Africa on crowdfunding are people don't want to put their full business plans out there on some website, and it will be there for as long as they shall live. And someone out there who doesn't have an idea of what to do but has a lot of money, which is very common within this part of the world, will just use it as a shopping place for new ideas. The question is, how do you safeguard the IP that you can put onto that platform? And then after the investment is done, how do you coach people to understand that because you've sourced this money from the crowd, and all these people have share certificates in your company, they're all part of the company, and that the crowdfunding platform just sourced the money for you. So I think the main issue is there has to be somebody who's done it before, and they can be used as an example. I think at the moment I can't think of any, and I stand corrected. But I do think there must be an opportunity. But I'm not sure how you safeguard the IP, how you would operationalize it beyond the investment, how you would manage US dollars in Zimbabwe, rands in South Africa, and kwacha in Malawi. they all have different legislative environments where you've got to go through the central bank. You can send money easily from one country, but you can't from another. Can those people who hold the shares to that company have a form of recourse across all these different countries? Because much as it looks the same, there's once you get into the detail, it's quite different. So I think those are the issues that a lot of people are asking themselves. But number one, can I actually get money? Number two, can my idea see the day of life? Because it remains my idea, having shared it with such a wide community of people. And for the investors, your money can come into Zimbabwe, it can come into Zambia, but can it go back? Wow. Wow. It's amazing because just yesterday I attended an event where they were talking a lot about crowdfunding. And it was a Dutch firm actually that was selling the idea that you could look at crowdfunding as a solution. And just what I threw back at you are the questions that everybody else had. So does it mean that I've got shareholders from Poland or from Russia or from America? If I have an operation in Zimbabwe and Zambia, which taxation environment are they subject to? Where does the money come from? Where does it go to? How does it actually work? And I think those are the questions which still need to be answered. If it does work in other countries, it's clear that there must be a way to make it work here. I'm not sure you could copy and paste it.
You mentioned the idea of drawing people that you need into your startup via giving them equity in the business, right? Because you don't have any money to begin with. So I'm curious about how do you ascribe the value that the equity is worth when you're starting up with your idea? Your valuation when you did it, when you offer people stake in your company in exchange for them to come and give you skills or to invest. What is the valuation method or model that you guys use for your idea?
Well, I think, valuation is always a minefield because, a valuation that works for me doesn't work for you. And the moment you meet an investor and you have an attractive valuation for you, you have an unattractive valuation for them. And it's the same when it comes to the people. So I think if you're a founder, what you need to do first is put skin in the game. Put your head on the block, have it chopped, because whoever comes in needs to understand that they're not taking more risk than you. They have to believe that in terms of the risk, you're still on the end curve of the risk. And therefore, whatever valuation method you use, you need to be in a position where everybody understands that we're bringing different things to the table. What I would say makes sense is look at your forecast cash flows when you're looking at building your valuation. If you're able to put in some fixed assets into the company and then build a very small balance sheet which you share with whoever comes into the business. The most important thing I think is you need to attract people that are willing, people that are able, and you've got to like those people because it's not always fun conversations in a startup. You can choose paying the lawyers over paying the accountants, and all are important, but it just comes to conversations, and you'd rather have a difficult conversation with somebody you like, and you'd rather have a beer with later than people you would prefer not to talk to afterwards, because there's a lot of uncomfortable conversations. So I think for attracting people, I'd say try and build a small balance sheet, put it into the company, and then whoever else comes in, of course, can add to that balance sheet. But if you haven't put in anything yourself, your ability to attract anybody is limited because they feel they're taking a risk on your idea. But you need to make it a mutual idea, and the way you do that is you put in everything you have, and then you attract other people to share with what you brought in exchange for the equity. I think what you probably want to do about that is set a timetable which triggers, because what you also want to do is, and investors will always do that with you as well, is you always want everybody to be hungry for more. More equity, more money, more milestones, and at each of those trigger equity and make sure that everybody gets value. Because beyond attracting people, you also need to keep them. And the way to do that, I think, is to also set up triggers up until a point, of course, because what will happen is once you have more capital, it'll come with conditions. And you could end up with tag-along rights and drag rights. And once you have investors, which means you can't pass equity to your colleagues because you would have to pass the same pro rata to all the new investors. So you need to do that fairly early on. And I think the end point at which you can do that is when the investors come on board.
What's it going to take? You mentioned crowdfunding. We know some of the challenges behind it. One of the main issues, I think, is legislation that supports crowdfunding as an initiative that was method for solving finance. I know, for example, the US is trying to resolve that, but even they haven't worked out. Within the African context, what is it going to take for African countries and others to be able to access crowdfunding initiatives, to be able to create those platforms, and have their best arts funded? Do we need to lobby? Do we need to speak to the Ministry of Finance or the outlets?
Yeah.
We provide in a country where 80% unemployment is means they don't even start
True. I could see that, but I think what you'll find is our banks are still into the brick and mortar. So they'll prefer to lend money to a company that's been in existence for 48 years and has been unprofitable for the last 5 years because they have access to land, buildings, they have brands, and so I think for them, the startups, that could be something they could look at if someone else takes the risk. And usually, when that happens, they'll still put in a price which makes it unviable. That's our experience with the local banks. We've been trying to borrow in Europe for a while. Yeah. But I don't see that the same financiers have gained faith in Africa yet. I agree. We have worked with individuals. When you work with the institutions in Europe, typically when they are quick and aggressive and everything else, it will take them a year to turn around the decision to money. And a year is a lifetime for a startup. So it's not the right way, I think, to fund it. Maybe in second and third rounds. Yeah. It's somebody tell us what crowdfunding is?
Well, I could have done it in private, but basically crowdfunding is when you decide to do either an online or a face-to-face campaign, just like you would garner donations for a healthy cause or a nonprofit. And you basically ask people in your network, friends, families, or just people who casually walk by you or your campaign online to donate to your startup. In exchange, you either give them a good feel gift, like you just sponsored one of our kits, or you actually provide them with the kit. And so in the United States and Europe, over the past 3 years, crowdfunding has been a way for startups to gain seed funding in the tens of thousands of US dollars in order to do prototyping or to release an app. And so basically the meaning of crowdfunding is you fund from the crowd. You don't go to a banker, you don't go to an investor, you fund from the pockets of the 3 F's, friends, families, and fools. But it still helps you.
I'm going to allow one more question. We're running a little bit behind time.
I'm more interested in the bootstrapping part.
Yeah.
You find that most entrepreneurs come from different backgrounds, and sometimes the only source of bootstrapping that you have is your salary. What would you advise such an entrepreneur to do so they can maintain something coming to them and also devoting some time to their startup?
Well, I think there's probably 2 ways. First way is you build a timetable and you say, look, I will start this company, and then at this point in 6 months' time, I will be in a position to not get 100% of what I currently earn from the startup, but if I could just meet my cost. If you would need $1,500 to go through a month, they need to find ways of bringing that down and then at the point where you can get 800 out the startup, then you could consider the shift. The second way would be to find people who share an interest in the idea, people with capital, and have them put in some money to you fund the startup. I'm more of a fan of the latter, because for a startup to work, it takes a lot. It's not just the brilliance of the idea, it's the energy with which you execute on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a yearly basis, until it actually comes right. So if you're busy in one way or another that's not related to the startup, you reduce the probability of success, because you can't take client calls when you're working, and yeah, you might do it, but as things get busier, you'll get a lot more calls, and the probability that you will serve your startup's clients or investors or suppliers as well as serve your job well, it goes down. I think you have to take a decision. At some point you have to be prepared to burn. If you're not prepared to burn, then you don't want to be in a startup. And you'll always burn much more than you thought you would.
We'll do a round of thanks to Titch ceremony. I hope we got a lot of takeaways from that. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. I have to clarify how to pronounce her name. Nisha McRae. Nisha is CEO and founder of Madika, and I looked up the website. They make some incredible stuff. Previously, Nisha was at MIT, still at MIT, but previously worked in the physics department. Has a bachelor's in political science. Has been a speaker and mentor at the Lean Startup Conference. She describes herself as a dreamer and doer of impossible things. fostering world-changing ideas and youth-driven innovation and entrepreneurship. Nisha was previously awarded the Philip L. Clay Community Service Award for some fantastic work she's done in the community. Nisha McCrae.
Guys, can everyone hear me? Come on, it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm pretty sure you're more enthusiastic than that. Can everybody hear me? Yeah. There we go. That is the spirit. So, as that awesome introduction, I think my mom would even be proud of that introduction. My name's Nisha, and I'll be guiding you guys through the process of product design and development. So, give me a raise of hands. How many of you guys have actually heard of product design and development? Okay, we have a couple people in the back. How many of you guys have heard of the design firm IDEA? We have 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that you all have either experience in the States or in Europe, if you have a little bit of knowledge of IDEA. But basically what I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes is a crash course on how does the top design firm in the world do product design and development. This applies whether or not you do hardware, whether you do mobile app development, software, or even if you work in the educational sector. Because at some point in your life, you're going to actually have to create something into a real life product. Take an idea, put it down on paper, and actually make it come to life. And so we have a little video clip that I'm about to show, which is basically a crash course on development. So 1 second. Excuse technical difficulties. In the meantime, while we're waiting for the video to come up and to form completely, while the video's playing, could you all sit next to one person so there's not odd numbers in rows, because we're going to do an activity which will require pairs. So while the video's doing this little jazz, if you'll make sure there's not 3 or 5 to a row, that each person has a partner, they can turn around and face, that would be awesome to do in the meantime.
tractor, space shuttle, you know, it's almost fantastic. Like, want to figure out how to innovate by using our process of flying. Project leader is Peter Skill, a 35-year-old Stanford engineer. Project leader because he's become the course, not because of city farming. He's only been an IPO for 6 years. The rest of it.
So due to a little technical difficulties, I'm actually going to let the ball play in your court. We have a video which actually describes it, but it's not hooked up to the sound system. And so I can explain what's going on for a couple of minutes, and then we switch into the activity, or we could just go straight into the activity and you guys just get to figure your way out through it a little bit, which could be a challenge. So raise your hand if you would like me to just give pointers or narrate the video instead of struggling with this for a couple of minutes, or who would like to do the activity. So play the video and I narrate, raise your hand. Oh, well, okay then. So can everyone see the video over here? Is it okay? Okay. So basically this is the headquarters of IDEO in San Francisco. IDEO is a design firm that is basically behind most of the most beautifully designed products in the world. And that's not just me saying it, this was Steve Jobs' own words. If you remember the first mouse that came to a computer, or you may remember a picture of it, this was IDEO's first product that grew revenue. They also created the Free Willy prototype and the iPod. So this is a design firm that has basically been making millions of dollars in solving people's problems of turning their ideas into reality. This news program decided to pose the #1 design firm a challenge. You have 2 days to create a new shopping experience for people at a major grocery chain. Now, to a design firm that's used to working for Apple, that sounds kind of like a pretty stupid exercise on their very highly sought after skills. But what they actually did during the process of these 2 days was show how do you take an idea into a physical prototype or into a program. So right now you have the entire team at IDEO looking at what a shopping cart is, what does it do, and how do people interact with it. And surprisingly, IDEO is full of nerds, and some of them don't even know how to use a shopping cart because they're used to their significant other doing the shopping for them. And what you'll find in design is that sometimes you're designing a product for a customer and you have no idea about that customer's experience. And this is one of the most important things you need to get over, whether it's programming or doing hardware. You need to immerse yourself in the relevant environment. So as you can see them talking with consumers, looking at videos, and brainstorming the kit, they're going to move from this stage, which is called hearing, or the human part of product design and development. That is getting to know what is the issue, what are the reasons for this issue, before you even think about a solution. As engineers, sometimes we like to think we know all the answers, when in actuality, 99% of the time, unless it's a problem dealing with engineering, we have no idea what the actual solution is. And as they wrap up the meeting, they're thinking about, well, how do we gain more insight into designing for this consumer who has a problem with the average everyday shopping cart you may find at Spur or Carrefour. And as they diverge, they're looking at shopping bags. How does one put a shopping bag in a shopping cart in a way that it doesn't tear a hole in it, or you don't have to look like a bag lady going down the street? How does one interact with the other components, like the child seat? Does your child bounce around a lot? Are you always afraid your child is going to bounce out of that cart and you're going to be the victim of a lawsuit, or the police are going to call? Based on my personal experience, I've broken an arm falling out of a shopping cart. These are the challenges that people shopping every day face. And now they've realized maybe we should actually just go to the consumer instead of playing around with it ourselves. And so this is actual footage of them following people around with a notepad, very sketch, but it works, and asking them questions about, what do you not like about the shopping cart? What do you like about the shopping cart? What do you wish, if this grocery chain was to purchase a new shopping cart, would you like a new addition? One lady suggests that she wants a charging cable because her smartphone always dies when she's in the shopping market, and she likes to update her grocery list. Another lady said she wanted seat belts and a child restraint to make sure her child didn't fall out of the cart. Another lady said she wanted it to look like she was a modern, everyday woman without carrying her cart around. She wanted something plastic with very neo design that made her look like someone important. And so you see the team coming back to the drawing board. And now that they have a problem that they can put in words and pictures and videos based on interacting with the customer, they can now start developing a solution. So the reason I like to show that video is I can talk about all day. There's 3 letters in product design and development. It's called human-centered design or user-centered design, as we heard about earlier. The H stands for human, the C stands for centered, and D stands for design. But I like to think of it in a different way. That it stands for hear what the actual problem is and the situation is. Create. This is when you're now knowledgeable about what the problem is, you create a solution. And then finally deliver. Now that you've dreamt up of a perfect solution for someone, it's now worth its weight in gold if you don't test it out with the same person who had the issue. And that's delivering the solution. And so here it is nicely displayed in a graphic. As you can see, the here step is basically conversing with people, getting to know what is the actual problem. If it's a product, interacting with the product. If it's a situation, immersing yourself in the situation. Talking with people who have more knowledge than you about the situation. The create step, as illustrated, is basically brainstorming, coming up with several prototypes. And a prototype is basically, what do you want the solution to look like? What do you want the solution to feel like? And what do you want the solution to work like? And then finally is deliver. That's when you bring your solution back to the customer and you say, does this work for you? Tell me why it doesn't work for you. Or if it works for you, tell me why it works for you so I can make sure in future iterations or future versions, I keep those characteristics. How many of you guys own a phone? Let's be proud that you own a phone. Let me see those hands up high. So almost everyone in this room owns a phone, right? How would you describe your actual phone experience when you go in to purchase your phone? Anyone want to volunteer an opinion? Did everyone purchase the phones they now possess? So does everyone have an experience purchasing a phone? So would a couple of people like to share their experience purchasing a phone? Okay, please raise your hand first. You and then you. Here you are.
I think I was looking for a smartphone, and so for me the Samsung had the Galaxy S5 had 2 free repairs on the screen. So if you drop it, they basically repair it for free. So I was like, bonus, that's my phone.
So I'm guessing you had a good experience. Oh, well.
I like to try out new phones. My previous smartphone was a Samsung. I hate them with a passion because they're the arrogant market leaders right now. And so I was looking for a cheap Chinese rip-off, which I got, which is a pile of crap as well.
So on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of phone purchasing, I was also looking for a smartphone because I wanted to do a lot of things at once, and I have this incredibly cute son, so I like to take pictures, and generally just like to take pictures. So I was looking for something that would give me really great picture quality, but could also get me on social media pretty quick. I detested Samsung for years, but I chose it because when I did my homework, they seemed to be offering the best camera at that time. Yeah, wonderful.
I was also looking for a smartphone. I basically wanted to upgrade for my smaller memory capacity
ideas, so I then went for a Samsung S3.
So pretty much we have a couple of bad experiences, a couple of good ones, a couple of that were basically your buying decision was focused on the camera because that was what you saw the most pleasure with, or whether it was social media, upload time, or your personal feelings regarding the company, or whether or not you know you're accident prone and you needed some insurance that you would keep the phone for a long time. And so what I like to do, I'm a very hands-on person, so forgive me if this beginning part seemed a little dry. I'm not a great lecturer. I'm a great practitioner. And so what I would like you guys to do now that you're paired up evenly, I would like you guys to focus for the next 25 minutes on how do you redesign the phone purchasing experience, whether it's your hometown, your region, or around the world. So right now you have a partner, and I want you to keep in mind throughout the entire activity that the purpose of this is to start gaining empathy for your fellow human being, and that's the first step to becoming a great product designer developer. That when you're able to connect to a human being and understand their experience within a 5 to 10 minute interview, that's when you develop great solutions. Everyone has their partner? I want you to turn to your partner right now. You got to rescue. Right now, turn to your partner, and I want each of you to take 2 minutes explaining your latest phone purchasing experience. Please don't be a time hog. I will be timing you to make sure everyone has a fair share. Starting now.